Today's guest is AJ Hernandez. He has built a very successful fashion and lifestyle brand in Boston. We also talk on this conversation about, on the physical side of things, he's a runner. He has done some marathons in the past and is preparing for the Boston Marathon in April. We get into music as well. I know, Paul, there's a section that you really enjoyed that you wanted to touch on as well.
Yeah, I think this is a great episode for sort of any up and coming influencers that are interested in, just a really great approach strategy as far as approaching brands. So, if you're a up and coming influencer looking to, get into the game, this is definitely the spot for you.
Absolutely. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy AJ's story. Well, AJ, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time out.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm excited. I was super pumped when I got your message, and I was glad we were able to make it happen so quickly. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, loving the sweater, by the way.
Thank you. I got dressed up just for you guys.
I know I'm feeling
I normally don't hang out in like a turtleneck like this when I'm at home, but I got dressed up for the occasion. So
nice. I'm feeling a little out of place. You guys are a little overdressed. But I'm underdressed.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer of the look good, feel good, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I know sometimes it's tough to get motivated to get, dressed up in the morning. I don't know how, the pandemic impacted you, but, we used to have to get dressed up for work, and working remotely now, and don't really have a good excuse to get dressed, but yeah, just kind of feels good to get ready in the morning.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I've been working from home for like 2 years. And like sometimes I'll literally just go out to get coffee instead of making coffee at home, just so I have an excuse to put something other than like my pajamas on. So I totally get it.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big extrovert. I get, it's weird. Like you don't realize how much energy you get from other people until you don't have that energy anymore.
100%.
Literally, I do the exact same thing. I'm like, it's like the highlight of my day is going to Starbucks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing.
Yeah, no, I think it's necessary. I'm like sitting in a WeWork phone booth right now, but I've forced myself to get a subscription here, like an all access, for that sole reason, because like, occasionally I can work from home, but I need an excuse to get out of the house and basically go mentally kind of log into work and then log out. I'm interested to hear some more, AJ, about your collaborations with brands. I know I've seen a lot of the work that you've done. That's how we originally got connected. And obviously it's a wide variety of brands. Like, you work with fashion brands. I've seen you work with, some beauty and wellness brands, kind of like runs the gamut as far as your portfolio. Yeah. But I'd love to hear about how you got involved with that and how that started for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, social media for me, So I moved from California to Boston. I moved here for college. So I think for me, posting as like often or regularly as I did at the beginning, it was like a really nice way for me to keep my family in touch with like what was going on here, right? Like what I was doing, like new friends I was making, all that stuff. It was like, I even started like a little blog, I think, when I moved out here, but like the whole point was really, I was just trying to keep my family in the loop and like just a place to put pictures of stuff, right? I think, as the way people started to engage with social media, especially Instagram, like as that started to evolve and change, I think the way I started to use it started to evolve and change a little bit too. I started to, care a little bit more about like what I was posting. It was less of just like, I feel like Instagram, at least when I started using it, was like, just post whatever you like. If I'm like, oh, like this, like here's my coffee, like snap a pic and post it, like no filter, like no one thought about like what the caption was going to be. Right. So like, obviously that stuff started to change, I think, as like the whole influencer marketing thing kind of took off. But I started kind of just like posting more and thinking a little bit differently about like what I was posting, never really with the intention of like getting into any sort of like content creation in the sense of like working with brands. maybe it's because like I'm a performer, I'm a creative at heart. So maybe it was just like a creative outlet. And I started to just really enjoy creating content kind of for other people to react to or engage with. And again, I think maybe that's just the performer in me, like liking to get a reaction out of people. And so that started to happen more and more. I started to figure out like what content people were engaging with, what content people like to see. And then I started I would tag what clothes I was wearing, or like tag what like beer I was drinking, whatever it was. I started just kind of playing around with things like that. But again, never really like the end game was never to become like a content creator or like an influencer. I would see people like getting free stuff on Instagram, or like, people were getting paid to do it. And I always thought somewhere in the back of my head, like that would be really cool. I wonder how they did that, but I never actively pursued it. Like people ask me this question all the time, and my response is like, it kind of just fell into my lap. Like the first brand collaboration I ever had, the brand just like reached out to me on Instagram and was like, hey, I think they were like launching a campaign in like the New England, Boston market, and they were specifically looking for guys. I think the market in general is like very saturated with female, like women content creators. And so a lot of times brands, I think, are looking for someone who is actively like posting and creating content when they're looking for guys, right? So the brand reached out to me and I was like, sure, you know what? Like I'd love to try your product. In exchange, it was like a wellness brand. I think it was Hims, actually. So like that, they reached out and I was like, sure, you know what? Like would love to try some stuff, like in exchange for some posts. Great. And I that was the first one. I did that. And I think, like after that, I maybe got like another, maybe, I might have used some hashtags that like put me in the like Boston content creator, like Boston influencer, Boston blogger, kind of like out in that space, and that, a couple of other brands reached out. But I just kind of, as more opportunities presented themselves, I was like, I'm already here. I'm already posting. I already like to do it. So if I can like make some extra money doing something that I already really enjoy doing, like let's do it. Let's run with it and see what happens. And so that was probably about like 2 or 3 years ago when that happened. Like I said, a couple brands reached out after that. I signed up for some like influencer to brand, like they have these platforms online that create or like connect brands and influencers and or content creators. Signed up for a couple of those. Applied to like casting calls that they would put out on those websites, got some deals that way. And then more recently, it's just really been about cultivating like relationships with their PR people or just like the brands themselves, really trying to create content that is valuable for the brand and like aligns with their ethos. And so, yeah, it's just like I said, it's something that I was doing. I liked doing it. And I was like, why not just like, if I can make some money doing it and have some fun and get to work with some really cool brands that I actually really like why not? And here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. We were actually curious sort of how that kicked off, right? Like, was it you approaching the brand, or was the brand approaching you? And it sounds like it started off sort of innocently as just, brand reaching out to you and saying, hey, we really dig what you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'd be curious kind of to dig into your creative process. Like you were just saying, like, you sort of get a good idea as far as like what the brand likes to see. Like, what is that creative process like? Is it mostly you that's kind of driving that, or is it, maybe it started off as you, like you were saying, as you like now you're sort of in the cultivation phase, but is it like a balance? Like, is it you driving it? Is it them driving it? Maybe it's different every time.
Yeah. I think it's like it varies case by case. Like some brands will be very specific in like what they're looking for, and they'll give you the criteria and the parameters for which you can create content. And that's a lot of fun. Like, I think part of one of the things I like about it too is like the challenge of having to create content that kind of like it's like internalizing the brand's ethos and like messaging and trying to like translate that into something that makes sense for my brand. And so, like I said, a lot of brands or companies will be very prescriptive in what they're looking for. Some of my favorite or like relationships that I have now, though, are some of these brands that I've been working with for a long time, where they give me much more creative control. I've worked with Night Shift Brewing for a while now, probably coming up on like a year. Huge fan of Night Shift. Always have been. So was super excited when I got, as I was approached to create some content for them. But they're like a good example of a brand who just kind of says like, here's a product, very broadly, like here's kind of what we hope to achieve with like this campaign, but like do what you want, like do what makes sense for you, like have a lot of fun with it. And so I think some of the most fun that I've had creating content has been for brands like that, where like I get free reign creatively to just try different things and like just have a lot of fun making the content.
Yeah, they're a great brand. That craft beer market has just the past few years absolutely exploded.
Yeah, I love it.
But your point about establishing that trust is interesting. I definitely feel the same way with working with clients. But that's how I feel from your perspective, especially like being in the influencer space. It seems from an audience perspective, that would be how the most genuine content gets made. Like the audience nowadays can sift through what's organic and what's like, basically, I'm trying to think, of a word for it, but the authenticity. Yeah, exactly. What's
hungry for that.
What's contrived and what's like genuine. Right. So I think that the fact that you got into the space by just genuinely being passionate for these different products or these different, lifestyle things that you're using on a day-to-day basis, that's obviously what attracted those brands to you. Mm-hmm. It's like, look, he's already, he's already creating this great content. He has the eye for the aesthetics. So they're not having to force you or do anything, force your hand on specific requirements. So that's interesting. The Night Shift Brewing, how did that collaboration come about and how has that evolved? Obviously, you said now you have kind of a little more rope. How did it start? Yeah, how did that get initiated?
I think I want to say that was another one where maybe they reached out to me, their influencer marketing person reached out to me. Sure. I'm pretty sure that's what happened here, but that the first one was like, it was like, we'd love to do like one post and, with like this I think it was like a new seltzer that they were launching last year. They're like, we'd love to just have you do like one post. And then, but again, I think, even with them, like even the first campaign we did together, they still gave me a lot of creative control. But the first, I just like had a lot of fun with that first campaign. They were super easy to work with. And they responded really well to like the content I was creating. And so, now, or the last couple of times I've worked with them, the campaigns have been longer. So like it's, creating more, more posts, whatever, like the relationship is just, and it goes back to what you said about like building that trust and building those relationships with them. Like, I think it's gotten to the point now where like they just trust me to create content that is like going to be engaging and is like on brand for them, but also on brand for me. And so now, it kind of works both ways. Like I've even gone back to them. I think the last time I worked with them, it was me going back to them and saying, hey, like I'm starting to think about my content for, the second half of the year. I really loved working with you guys last time. If you have anything planned upcoming in the second half of the year, like, let me know. Like, I'd love to find a way for us to work together. And it worked. Like they ended up, they had something coming up and it was the right fit for me, and for them. And so now it's kind of a little bit of a back and forth. And I've started to venture out into like pitching more brands proactively myself. But yeah, it's just like, it all comes back to that trust and just like, having fun and just kind of creating content that adds value for both parties. And I think for me, that when I go into a collaboration or to a partnership, that's something that I try to stress, is that like, it's not just a money-making opportunity for me. It is like, I want to genuinely come to an agreement or create something that adds value both to the brand and like, so in terms of whatever their own goals are, whether it's whatever it is, dollar growth, whatever, but also like something that the people who follow me and engage with my content are going to like enjoy or have fun seeing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. A few things that you said that I just was typing down as they stood out was, you know, have it being on brand for them, but also for you, as well as, you know, the right fit for you. And that's something that prior to our call, I was thinking about, like trying to put myself in your shoes. And one thing that I've noticed in talking with you and following you, it's that you've created, you know, more so than just a brand that will collaborate with people. You've really created a community, and it's continuing to grow. But I think one of the things that the community like respects about you is that you won't engage with a brand just kind of like haphazardly. You're doing it with a certain intention, and you kind of alluded to that. But yeah, I was interested to kind of hear what the not requirements, but how you're able to sift through, you know, various offers or various potential opportunities and decide, okay, this is right for my brand. Like, what are some of the things that stand out when they're reaching out to you, or vice versa?
Yeah. And I totally agree. Like, the community piece and is so important, like building the community and like the whole, like you were talking about, like the authenticity and like what content like people are creating is very important. You know, I get requests from brands to work with them. And I think for me, and you touched on this, like I want it to, you know, when it comes time to post or when it comes time to sign the contract, like I want to know that I'm going into something that is, like I said, not just like, it's not just a moneymaker. I think, right. and I think of maybe I have the luxury of, you know, this being something that I'm doing part-time. Like I have, you know, so maybe that's part of the reason I can still be picky, or like be more selective and picky, because like I'm not necessarily relying on this as my sole source of income. Not to say that like there are like the content creators who are doing this full time are just picking like or saying yes to everything. There are a lot of great content creators who are doing this full time who like still very selective and like are creating content with brands that are authentic to them. But I think that's a part of it too, is like I'm doing this as just like something fun and extra on the side. I think, you know, if it feels like, I don't know, like I don't want it to ever feel like it's coming out of left field. So like if a brand comes up to me or like approaches me from a niche that like I am not like regularly engaging with, or like it's a product that I'm not really using, or like in the realm of something that I've used before, it just to like, if I like to put myself in like the other person's shoes. Like if I was following someone who all of a sudden, like it's like someone who is who posts all the time about going out to eat and eating steak dinners, and then the next day they're doing a collaboration with like a vegan food company. It's like, that seems a little weird. Like I feel like you can kind of see right through those kinds of things, and like I try to like, I don't ever want to do something like that. Another thing that I've tried to do is if there is something that is like new to me from a product perspective, but maybe like not necessarily new. So if it's like a new skincare product, for example, like I get approached a lot by like men's grooming, men's like stuff's created specifically for men. And I have over the last couple years like invested a lot of time, my own time and money, into curating like a skincare routine, for example, that works for me. So if I'm going to work with a new brand, I like to work into my like contracts or the scope of work like a trial period. And I think that does two things. It allows me to actually try and use and live with the product for a little bit, so that like my review or like whatever content I'm creating or recommendations I'm giving are real. But also, if I try it and it doesn't work for me, I'm not wasting the brand's time, right? Like I'm not just putting something up that is not genuine, that people are going to see right through. So that's something that I've tried to work into a lot of my like contracts or campaigns, is like, and like I said, I think that serves two purposes. One, you know, I can have a real lived experience with it to talk about, and I'm also not just like I'm not wasting the brand's time by just like if they could find someone else who is genuinely going to enjoy the product and it works for them and I think that's going to add more value for them than just like having me haphazardly post it just because I wanted the check.
Yeah. So there's like a little bit of a proof of concept type of engagement happening first.
Yeah.
When you're sort of going through those proof of concepts, if you will, like, are you engaging your audience at all in that process? And I actually really, really like that. Like, it's, 'cause I think that's, part of what you provide as an influencer, right? It's like you're sort of consolidating. It's a big world, right? There's lots and lots of things, and you're sort of consolidating people's attention on. You're sifting through, the crap, basically, right?
Yeah, totally.
That provides a lot of value. So yeah, I'm curious. Like, do you like to engage your customer or your customers, but your audience in that process?
Yeah. I will. To an extent, like if I'm trying something new for the first time, and there's potential for some sort of like posting later on, I'll generally post about it. I'll like throw up a story and just kind of say something like, hey, I'm trying this new product. Can't wait to try it. Like, I'll let you know what I think kind of thing. Or like who wants to, do you care to know what I think about it? Like, but yeah, I like to engage them a little bit. And I think, if the trial is overwhelmingly positive, I certainly share that feedback, and oftentimes that ends up coming out in like an actual contracted post, whatever, like something that the brand and I have agreed upon. And if it's not the most positive experience, which honestly I don't think I've ever run into a situation where it was like devastatingly negative that I had to like, but I do try to be sensitive to, the fact that like I'm not going to go on like a smear campaign, right? This product absolutely ended up being terrible, never buy it. But like I think I try to be sensitive to what my follow-up looks like, because I also, just because something doesn't work for me doesn't mean it's not going to work for someone else. I think there's a difference between like a inherently bad product and something that just doesn't work for me or like doesn't resonate with me, and so I don't want to I think I just try to be as transparent about that as possible, that like, if someone asks like, what did you think about this? Like, I'll be honest and say like, it didn't work for me. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't try it, but like, it just didn't work for me. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's sort of the vibe that I got. And that's one of the things that, I really I like about your presence, and I assume your audience respects it the same. So obviously you have like a bunch of different lanes. I love fitness. I love fashion. I also I used to bartend, so I saw you like to mix a cocktail or two.
I do, yeah.
Like, what kind of content do you like to engage with the most? Like, do you like the fashion stuff the most? Do you like just would be curious to dig a little there.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like I'm in like a mom being asked like which one's her favorite kid. I like them all equally
I love that.
For like different reasons.
Good analogy.
I feel like the the fitness stuff.
Brad told me
so I've run a couple marathons. I grew up playing sports. The fitness stuff I kind of lean into a little bit more when I'm like actively training for something. I ran Boston or trained for I had to end up running like the virtual one a couple years ago, but like I really leaned into the fitness stuff and the running stuff while I was running like all the time. But that is a lot of fun because like that's a totally different group of people that like engage with that content, right? Then like maybe people who engage with the fashion style stuff might also engage with like the wellness and grooming stuff, but like I think the fitness stuff sometimes there's totally different people that like kind of like to engage with that content. It's totally different audience sometimes. So that's really fun, and like I said, I like to lean into it when it's happening. I ended up doing a collaboration with Brooks Running last year, which was like a dream come true. They're like my shoe of choice. It was one of the coolest collaborations that I've done. but like, so that's a lot of fun for sure. And then, I mean, I love the fashion stuff. I don't know. It's really hard to choose. I do really like the cocktails, like the stuff that I've done, like mixing drinks and stuff. I'm a huge foodie, and just like love like food and drinks and like good food and drinks and like sharing good food and drinks with other people. And like, so that's always fun. It's always fun to just get to like show that stuff off and like flex my like culinary skills or like my bartending skills, if you will. But yeah, it's hard. I can't really choose. I like them all equally, but for different reasons.
Yeah, we should have set up a little mixology station for this. You guys could have chefed up a little cool. Espresso martinis or something.
Yeah,
I'll just sit back and drink them. That's awesome, though. Yeah, and you mentioned obviously the running. You did Boston. I saw. Did you also do New York Marathon?
I did. I ran the New York Marathon in 2018. That was my first marathon that I ever ran.
That's a good one.
Great.
Yeah, awesome race.
Yeah, so Paul has a background in pretty competitive Ironman, half Ironman racer. So I knew you guys would hit it off on that. And I recently got into running a few years ago as well. So I'm dabbling. Did my first half, and
nice.
But I'd love to at some point to do a full. I'd love to hear about your first marathon experience. Like, how'd you go about preparing like your training block? Were you like working with a coach, or did you just what inspired you to train for that, and how to go?
Yeah, so I grew up playing like sports. My parents put me in like baseball and soccer basically as soon as I could walk, and then I ran some cross country in middle school. Was like a pretty decent cross country like distance runner considering my build. Like I'm not built like a distance runner, so like I did decently well considering. So like grew up playing a lot of, like I said, a lot of sports, a lot of team sports, but I've always really loved running. I think I loved the fact that it's just me and only me, and like how well I do or how poorly I do is 100% up to me. It's like if I don't put in the work, like I'm not going to see the result, and like I can't really rely on anyone else to get the result. And so I think that's the part of running that really makes me enjoy it. So, like moving through high school and I played soccer. I did a little bit more running in the off season, but like stopped kind of playing organized sports, if you will, altogether, like come college. And I was looking for, I think, some sort of something active to like get me back into some sort of like a routine. I had always kind of thought about getting back into running and like running a marathon, but it kind of just felt like too lofty of a goal at the time. I think the first time though that I really was like, I'm gonna do it and make it happen was the 2013, like when the marathon bombing happened. So I went to Boston College, and like it's right at mile 21, and so the marathon is always like a huge deal there, right? So like I kind of fell in love with like the phenomenon of the marathon, like going to school there and getting like all excited and watching it every single year. I like get super emotional just like watching people run, like people I don't even know. Well, like, I just like, I don't know, something about it. It just like is very emotional. I think after that happened in 2013, it kind of made it oddly even more of an emotional thing. Like, especially the next year, I think I was just like really inspired by like the resilience and like the people who came right back. And I was like, you know what, like, I'm going to make it happen. Like I'm just going to do it. Took me a couple years to finally like commit to it. But yeah, in 2018, I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna run the New York Marathon. I think I chose it because it might have been a little bit less competitive to get into from like a fundraising standpoint. I didn't qualify, But
it's tough to qualify for Boston.
yeah, exactly.
It's like your first marathon, like, yeah, it's real tough.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, so I got in touch with the charity. I ran for the Brain Injury Association of New York, and actually ran in memory of my uncle who unfortunately passed away from a TBI years and years ago. But it was really cool to run for a cause that had like a meaning, or like a, that was very near and dear to my heart. So that made kind of running my first marathon even more of an impactful, overwhelming experience. Getting to run through New York and like see the city that way was really cool. And yeah, I mean, training wise, I did it myself. I didn't run with a coach. I just kind of downloaded a training plan off of their website and dove head first into it. And, went out and did my runs every week for like 4 months. It was tough. It was hot because it was like, I think the New York Marathon's in November. So like training in like late August was pretty brutal. But I kind of came out of it feeling like if I could put myself through that and train for a marathon, I can kind of do anything. Like, you kind of feel like, and you probably maybe felt this way like after you finished your half, but like you feel kind of badass like when you like, even when I would just go out for like a training run, like not even the race, just like go out and come back and be like, I just ran like 18 miles. I'd be like,
you're a savage.
That's pretty cool. Now I can go eat and drink whatever I want for the rest of the day. No, I'm just kidding. But
well, that's it.
No, that's part of the perks. Definitely.
That's not the reason why I train. There's something to your point that I love. Like, I don't know when you did your training runs, but like I doing triathlon, like was doing 2 to 3 workouts a day. So like we were definitely working out in the morning, and there's something to be said, running whatever it is, like 5-10 miles in the morning and like walking into the office or, jumping on your first call or whatever. And just we're ready to rock.
You build that momentum right off the bat.
100%. And I'm a big coffee drinker, and like I need coffee to start my day. Actually. But the days where I would like get out and get a run in the morning, I almost felt like I didn't even need my coffee. Like I was like, I could skip the coffee. Like, I had all the, I don't know, something about, like you said, like just getting it done in the morning. And like, it's such good momentum for the rest of the day.
Those endorphins are flowing.
I think it was like Socrates, Plato. It was some Greek philosopher. It really talks about that, but like the connection between like the physical and the mental. I definitely agree with that. Like to your point, like you feel like you don't need coffee, but interestingly, a lot of endurance people love coffee. Or borderline addicted to it, like myself. But I saw you were pretty into coffee. I saw you had the Lavazza espresso maker. And, it was like, what are your favorite caffeinated cocktails? Are you an espresso guy? Do you like lattes, Americanos? Like what are we whipping up if you're
so it's funny, like if I make coffee at home, I'm a like black coffee, just like drip coffee guy, like all day long.
You like coffee.
Same black.
I love
like it's straight.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I'm making it at home, it's just like a pot of like black drip coffee, like no milk, no sugar, no nothing. But if I go out to get coffee, I like to treat myself to like an iced coffee with milk. I mean, I'm just like an iced coffee with milk kind of guy. So every once in a while, I'll get a little crazy and get like a latte or something, but I'm
officially
pretty
from Boston now. Iced coffee.
Exactly. My parents think I'm crazy, like drinking iced coffee or leaving my house to get an iced coffee in the middle of the winter, but it hits different, I feel like.
Nice cold brew.
I'm a black like drip coffee guy. Nothing fancy.
Any brands in particular that you've collaborated with or that you like?
Yeah, so I mean, it's funny because like I said, I'm a big coffee guy, but I'm a pretty equal opportunity coffee drinker. I'm not, I do enjoy like a good, like well crafted, nuanced cup of coffee every now and then. But like I can appreciate that, but I if I need a coffee, I can, any coffee will do. So maybe I'm a little bit of like a contradiction in that sense, but like, I do love like, you know, I do love Dunkin' now. When I first moved here, you could not get me to go to Dunkin' Donuts. I was like, I'm hanging on to like my Starbucks. Like I'm never letting that go. And now, you know, I love Dunkin'. I still love Starbucks. Like I said, I'll pretty much drink any coffee, but like, and there are times that I'm like, I want like a good, you know, cup of coffee. I have all kinds of like coffee beans up in the kitchen here, but yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any like, well, I love like Night Shift coffee. They actually make they make good coffee. Was super excited when I saw that they were kind of getting into the craft coffee space, if you will. So I'll give a shout out to Night Shift again.
I was going to say shout out.
Yeah. I actually am a huge fan of their coffee. I would actually, if you look in my coffee basket there, I would say like 90% of the beans are Night Shift coffee. So yeah. Let's go with Night Shift.
Yeah, I like it. Good answer. And it is cool, the just the explosion too on the coffee front, right?
Yeah.
Like, it'll be interesting to see because, obviously in like the 90s, there was a big consolidation of all the brewers, where it was sort of like the end of the road. And that was always something that I found so interesting about Sam Adams' start.
Yeah.
It was like his dad was a brewmaster, his grandfather was a brewmaster, and was like, don't get in this business. It's the end of the rope. And then there was just this massive explosion. It's the same for coffee, which I think is pretty cool. But good stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to dive back into. So I wrote a few things down when you were talking about. Obviously, you said you went to BC. You ran Boston, so it just triggered a few things. Obviously, that BC section, like right after Heartbreak Hill, is amazing. And to your point, so I've hung out like at Heartbreak Hill for the marathon, and then just walked down and the energy from the students, most of them half in the bag, but like hanging over the railings, just screaming. It's like, it's really awesome. And I've always thought about like, for the runners, that must be such a nice like adrenaline. You're like dying out there and you see these kids just like losing their mind.
Oh yeah.
But you talked about how the idea of a marathon for a while seemed like this lofty goal that was kind of like out of reach. Obviously, you were able to break that down into smaller components. I'd be interested to hear about if you do the same thing in other aspects of your life, like you have this big goal and then you kind of reverse engineer it. If you have a goal to, I want to work with this brand, Warby Parker, or whoever it might be, how am I going to actually go about it? Like, there's steps involved. So I'd love to hear about your process for breaking down big goals.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say like I'm definitely like a small goal to get to the big goal kind of guy. I think training for the marathon, having done a couple now, like really reinforced that.
Good point.
But I've always been someone who likes to kind of stop and like celebrate the small wins along the way. I think if we're talking about like, maybe if you want to use like a brand collaboration as like a hypothetical to like talk about this.
Sure.
Yeah. I think, I do my research. I like to take a look at like, who are they already working with? Like, what are they looking for? Like, what accounts do they follow? Like, who do they repost, or like, who do they engage with? And like, start to look at like what those creators are doing and like what kind of content they're creating and engaging with, and not necessarily like replicate it, but like look at what pieces of what they're doing can I kind of translate into like what works for me, or like things that I'm kind of already doing. And then, I think there's something to be said for, actually like authentically, I guess, showing, I don't want to say proving to the brand, but like, if I'm the brand and like someone's like, hey, I'd love to work with you, but I've never actually like used their product day in my life, it's going to be like, okay, yeah, sure. I'm sure you'd love to work with us, but like, actually consuming their like products and like showing that I have like an interest in what they're all about. And I think I don't know if that answers the question, but I do definitely do like to like approach these sort of like more long-term things by breaking it down. I just think it makes it more attainable. And then, like I said, I'm a big fan of like celebrating the small wins. And I think when you can like break things down into smaller goals, there's more opportunities for doing that.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. You definitely have a personalized approach, right? It's not like it's not boilerplate, and they can tell that. And you do, like you said, you do your homework. It's super obvious to tell when people are essentially copying, pasting, spamming you in an email. Yeah. And it's like, okay, that's, the vast majority of the time, that's a waste of everybody's time. So you definitely need to, whether it be in sales or whatever industry you're in, when you do reach out, you need to position yourself in a way that's going to be meaningful for them. And to your point, I think a lot of it is the legwork that goes in before that touch point.
Yep.
Like, so that they're already somewhat familiar, or when they look at you, they're like, okay, they actually know what they're talking about. They're not just coming at me with this like cold outreach. There's something to it. So I think that's good advice for anybody that's really looking to get into your industry or just in general prospecting.
Yeah.
I think that's good advice too for like young people trying to get into the game. Like, I don't like, one of my favorite podcasters is a guy named Tim Ferriss. And that was one thing that he really pushed. People are always sort of like, how do I get from point A to point B? Yeah. And one really good way, actually one of Henry Ford's earliest workers, this is his approach, right? Like, you just kind of show value, right? You do your research.
Yep.
You don't, obviously getting the interview is important, but like when you go to the interview, it's like, laying out a plan. This is how I think I can impact your business, and this is exactly how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I think that's one thing that's really cool about the internet is it's sort of like lowered the barrier to entry, and really like allows people to kind of like stick their neck out and be part of something that they're passionate about.
Yeah, 100%.
Like filtering process. But I was just curious, like, I was just thinking about this, like, who are your favorite influencers? Like, who are people that you look up to and sort of like motivate you to keep pushing the ball forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. The first person that comes to mind, I don't know if you guys know who she is. She's pretty big on TikTok, but her name is Tinks. Or Tinks. So she's, I think on TikTok, she might be like, it's me, Tinks, or that might be Instagram, but like just Tinks. I'm sure if you just Google Tinks, like she'll come up. She kind of blew up over the last like year. She started, I think she like got popular doing this little bit that was like, it's like the rich mom starter pack. And like, she would just kind of like pick like a different city and be like, if you're a rich mom wanting to live in this city, like this is the like country club you need to belong to. This is the car you need to drive. This is where you need to go to lunch. But And that stuff is all great and fine, but I think one of the things that she does really well and that I really like about her and that I am, trying to do more of is just, she's very real. She's like, it's, those kinds of rich mom starter pack things are obviously very curated and well thought out beforehand, but she kind of says and does and shares kind of like whatever she's feeling and whatever's on her mind. I think kind of harkens back to like the old days of like social media, like Instagram, when like it was just like a diary and you were just like posting kind of like at just whatever, right? It doesn't feel as curated. And yeah, there's something she comes off as very authentic. Like she will go on a bad date and come home and cry and like film it and put it on TikTok. And like, I'm not saying you need to like do like everyone needs to do that or that I would necessarily do that. But like the fact that she's just so like relatable and real is really refreshing. And so I like try to do more of that. And I'm trying to like be more like that. I think, and so she's just, but she does it in a way that's funny and engaging, and it just feels really, really real. And I think a lot of the brands that she's worked with, have recognized that. And I think that's such a big part of the reason why she like got so popular, was just like people, she's kind of just like, your best friend that lives in your phone. Like it kind of feels like she's just like talking to you, and like it's just, I think that's like a good way to put it. I would like, I think a lot of, if you ask people who like her or like are fans of her and the stuff that she does, it's kind of just like my best friend Tinks that just like happens to only live in my phone. Like, but it feels like she's like your friend. And I think and that's something that I, as I continue in this kind of like space, want to kind of emulate more of and do more of.
I think you just created Tink's tagline. You might need to hit her up. That's shout out Tinks.
Got my next follow.
And I think there's a good point in that about what people are craving. Like you talked about, just the realness of what she provides. I've definitely noticed people are right now love the like behind the scenes content, like the not as glamorous stuff. Like they like seeing the glamour shots, but then they also like to see what went into that. So like they like to see someone taking the photo, how it was set up, how it was arranged. Or just to your point, like on the personal side of things, what's going on in your life that you may be dealing with, because everybody obviously has things that aren't as glamorous that sometimes we try to hide, but then when you do share them, you notice you get like a lot of responses because other people are dealing with things too. So it's a good point.
And I wonder too, like if especially over the last 2 years, it's like everyone's kind of gone through this like shitty thing together, and it's like we all kind of have this shared kind of awful experience that it's like we recognize that like that like it's something that everyone's going through, so like there's no way that someone's like life is so perfect and like put together all the time, especially these last 2 years. So when people kind of break down that wall and are like, like my life is not always like great, I think people, especially kind of given what we've gone through in the last 2 years, appreciate that. I think maybe that's part of it.
Definitely. That's a good insight. So I know you're working on a few different things right now. We talked earlier and you mentioned one of the initiatives or nonprofits that you're involved with regarding music mainly. I'd love to hear some more about that and dive into that. I know you're a musician yourself.
So I started, so the organization is called Education Through Music Massachusetts. We are an affiliate of Education Through Music in New York. And there are affiliates, I believe, in LA and Denver. So we're the newest affiliate. We've been around for almost 2 years, or a little over 2 years. I think is when I got involved with the organization. Essentially, what we do, to like break it down in the simplest terms, is like we are bringing music education programs to schools in the state of Massachusetts where they don't exist for reasons like lack of funding or lack of staff. Our entire mission is about bringing sustainable music education programs back into Massachusetts public schools, we're starting in Boston, but eventually, the plan is the goal would be to kind of have one of those programs in place in every school in Massachusetts where there isn't one today. And so like, that's kind of at the core of what we're doing. And we do everything from like hiring the teachers to work in this, to place them in the school and train the teachers and kind of help these schools cultivate or develop like a music curriculum and a program that then, at a certain point they can sustain themselves. But we're kind of involved in the entire process there as far as like creating the music programs. And so it's been like really fulfilling work. It's been challenging being like a new kind of startup nonprofit, especially over the last couple years, where people, were maybe being more selective with their, philanthropic giving and resources have just been limited. So it's been challenging to kind of get our feet off the ground, but it's also been very fulfilling because we are now in a couple different schools in Boston, and it's just really cool to like hear from the teachers and like see the students who are thriving in these music programs, and hear from their parents and in this, you know, the schools who have been asking for these programs but didn't have the resources or the time or the expertise to kind of like make them happen. It's really cool work, and I, you know, as a musician, you know, I grew up like playing the piano and singing and doing musical theater. And I, you know, firsthand know or, you know, what that experience was like for me and how formative it was for me, that having the opportunity to kind of create the opportunity for someone to have a similar experience to the one that I had, or to the ones that I had, has been like incredibly fulfilling.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely important to have that artistic outlet. Like you mentioned right off the bat when we started talking about, you know, you're a performer at heart, right? Like you need that creative expression or that creative outlet. So definitely there's tons of benefits to that. And you mentioned, so you played the piano. You also sing, correct?
I do.
We're fellow a cappella group members.
That's right.
Nice. Very cool. What was the name of your Boston College a cappella group? Did you have like a clever name? Usually
we were the Boston College Dynamics.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yep.
That's awesome. I remember I bartended out in the vineyard, lived there for I grew up doing summers and stuff, but lived out there for a number of years. I'm trying to remember the name, but there was a vineyard a cappella group that used to like go around and sing during the summertime. God, I can't remember their names. It is pretty awesome though when like a group of guys roll up and just start belting it.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Why do fools fall in love?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
It just reminded me, I know Paul is definitely an Office fan. Are you a fan of The Office?
Oh yeah.
I don't like it. I just like never watched it.
Yeah. Well, there's a like one of the main characters, Andy, is he's part of a acapella group, or his Cornell acapella group is called Here Comes Treble, he mentions it all the time. So
Steve Colbert is like part of it, like he's in it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, for that reason alone, then I'll have to go back and check out The Office and give it a shot.
Yeah, that's one of those shows. Like the first time I watched it, it was like one of those. It was cringe comedy. Like like secondhand embarrassment is really like the feeling that you felt, and like I hadn't heard that term at that point in time, but they do such good character development, and like by the end of it, like you end up loving all the characters, and
people love it. Like I have friends that absolutely love it. I just
especially after working in an office. Like, they do a good job sort of like capturing these caricatures. Like you're like, oh, I know that person. Like, there's at least like 2 or 3 of those people in my office. But it's funny.
Yeah, I'll have to give it another shot. I have been needing a new show to like dive back into that doesn't require like too much thought that I can just kind of watch. I can just like watch and just like enjoy. So maybe I'll give The Office another try.
It is super mindless. Like you can put it on the background, as just kind of put it on loop and let it go.
Or something.
Exactly.
So it reminded me when we're talking about music, another one of the collaborations that you mentioned was kind of one of your favorites, that you obviously had Night Shift Brewing, and then you worked with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And I know that you're super passionate about that collaboration. So maybe you could dive into that.
Yeah, that was cool. So I worked twice with them last year, actually. The first time was so like Blue Bikes. They're the official sponsor of Blue Bikes. And they, for the month of June during Pride Month, they did a campaign, like a push for folks to take a ride on their Pride bikes, which they had a fleet of them across the state. And for every ride that someone took on one of those bikes, I think $1 or maybe a couple of dollars was donated to, I want to say it was Fenway Health. I could be totally wrong, but like they donated to charity, a nonprofit that was working in the kind of LGBTQ plus like activism, like that sort of space. And being, a member of that community myself, it was like a really cool, campaign to be a part of, and just to kind of be bringing awareness to a cause that's so important, and that like means a lot to me, obviously personally. And yeah, it was just like it was just a lot of fun. And then the second time was about it was a campaign about getting people to get vaccinated for COVID. Which was a lot of fun. It was, that one was a little bit more like, it was less fun in games,
a little more structured.
A little bit more structured.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think like that partnership in general really fascinated me, just because I think you don't often see insurance companies like kind of playing in the influencer marketing space. And so it was really interesting. One, to just see it happening, and to kind of seeing them lean into this trend of like using influencers to help drive, awareness, like whatever it is they're doing. It was just that was cool. And then, like I said, just getting to, especially that first one, I really just thought was cool. Getting to share that part of my life in that way that was impactful was kind of cool.
Yeah. How much freedom did they give you as far as like the content was concerned?
So
like both situations were different.
Yeah. So for the first one, it was pretty much like show off the bike in some way, right? Like I got to go ride around the Charles on one of the bikes and take some pictures and like have some fun with that. And then the second one was much more like, it was just much more serious in tone. And so the content had to reflect that. And, there were very specific things I had to hit, like as far as like messaging and, you don't want to spread misinformation about that stuff, right? So like it was much more just kind of like straightforward and serious. I think I even started like the TikTok that I did, like saying something along the lines of like, this is not meant to be funny. Like this is like, I want you to like, please stop and just like listen to this. If you like live in the state of Massachusetts, like just take a minute to listen to me. Like it was like that serious, where I had to be like, all right, especially because like on TikTok, I like to just like make fun of myself and make fun of like living in Southie and Boston. So it was just like, this is serious. Like we need to just like take a minute and talk about this. But both just like very interesting. I think campaigns and just very different from like a lot of the stuff that you see happening normally in like kind of the influencer marketing space.
Yeah. I was gonna say that one kind of, or like it must have been interesting having somebody like that reach out to you.
Yeah. I think when I got the email, I was like, I had to like do a double take and be like, is this acronym what I think it is? Like, is this who they're saying they are? But yeah.
It is interesting to sort of see how, because I mean, obviously that model is popular, right? Like using social media is a way to drive audiences to, the areas that you want to drive them to. I think that's pretty, I mean, it's obviously, it sounds like the larger companies are starting to realize just how powerful, how powerful that is. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. A lot of brands are adopting it, like regardless of industry.
Right.
And even if you can make something that is traditionally like, somewhat dry, like a little more engaging, or you can tap into a new market. I know like you personally, one of the things that you were talking about, which I thought was interesting, was how you've been able to navigate different like silos of markets and how they intertwine with each other. That's always something that's fascinating to me. It's like, okay, you have music, you have fashion, but they're also related. Like you have music and fitness, which you can kind of relate, like all of these
Yep.
different like a web that you're weaving, if you
Yep.
will. So I think that's cool because you're drawing from different audiences and then kind of almost introducing each other. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm partial to the music side and the fitness side, but I'm partial to the music side, and I'd like to hear what you're listening to on your playlist these days. Like any new artists that you're listening to?
Good question. So today I had Casey Musgraves on repeat. I went to her concert last night,
Nice.
and I was a huge fan of her like last album before this one, and didn't really listen to her latest one. And so I kind of went into the show not knowing a lot of the music, and like thought it was really cool. So I had that on repeat all day today. What else?
Is that Golden Hour? Is that that was
Golden
the one?
Hour was the one, like the one before this last
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I know that one. I'm familiar with that one.
Yeah, that was the one that I was most familiar with. But yeah, went to that concert last night. So I've had that on repeat all day.
Nice.
I'm trying to think other stuff I've been listening to recently. I've been listening to Jimmy Allen. He's a country music singer recently. I've had him on repeat the last couple of days. I don't know, I feel like my music taste is kind of eclectic. Like I don't really discriminate when it comes to music. I'll listen to kind of anything, or I'll at least give anything and everything a try.
Music and coffee. You're free reign to,
exactly. When people like, I like to say like, if I can sing to it, then like I'll listen to it. So like, but yeah, today it's been like strictly Casey Musgraves all day. Yeah, I'm a little late to the party, but happy to be here.
Better late than never.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I kind of get into music and I'll just kind of listen to stuff on repeat.
Yeah.
But that must have been exciting. I know was that your first concert, or like what? I guess have you been to shows since like the pandemic?
So I've been to
tapering off here.
I've been to one. I went to one back in December, and it was a Christmas show.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a much smaller venue.
Yeah.
Like a much smaller, like much more intimate show. So this was my first time being in like an arena or like being at the Garden without any people. Yeah.
Oh, but the Garden. That's great.
She did the Garden. Yeah. So, but it felt really good.
Yeah.
To like be in that space again.
Yeah. I love live music. And yeah, just I love that scene, and I know that's one thing that I've been really missing out on the past few years. Was just getting to go to, like, I don't know, they even call it the Tweeter Center anymore. I'm probably dating myself, but the place in Mansfield, it's the Comcast Center now. Whatever.
Get with the times, man.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I'm the old man on the call.
Yeah, I just thought of another band actually. Do you guys know Lawrence at all?
I don't know.
Heard of them? They're worth giving a listen to.
Definitely check them out.
LAWRE. It's a brother sister duo. They're
from New York.
Super funky. I do know like Lake Street Dive.
I love Lake Street Dive.
Yeah, so very similar, very similar vibes. Like
nice.
big band. Nice. Like I think they toured with Lake Street Dive on their last tour. They might have opened for them. But just like a cool, funky, like brother sister duo. They have a really, really cool cover of "It's Gonna Be Me" by NSYNC on their latest album.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
All right, they're on. I just pulled them up on Spotify. So after this, we'll dive in. I do like Lake Street Dive. That's great. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. There's
some of the bands back around again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like I don't know, we got there for a second, but yeah, it's cool to sort of see like the bands like recirculate. Like obviously NSYNC, I think we're around the same age. Like they were obviously super popular when we were growing up.
Yeah.
Cool. Still tapping
like
my foot.
Right.
Out.
Yeah, it's funny that like my brother, he's 8 years younger than me. Like I think probably just like recently discovered like some NSYNC like Backstreet Boys stuff for the first time.
Yeah.
Like
this is oldies. The oldies station. Right. It's like this isn't oldies.
I know.
That's so funny.
It's wild to think about, because I actually had the same moment where like it was like one of those things where like basically like this date is to this date, and it was like in the 90s. Basically, is like to like 1969, and I was like, whoa,
yeah,
man.
those are freaky.
Like, that just made me feel way older.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. Yeah, because Backstreet Boys NSYNC, that was like 30 years ago now at this point.
Right.
Not maybe 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. Wow. Yeah, I'm getting nostalgic. You were talking about like how you put songs on repeat. I know, and Paul, you mentioned you do the same thing. I'm interested if you do that when you're running, because I know that a lot of people that are in the fitness world, and I know like for myself, I have a playlist called Loop, and like it's just songs that I could play for 3 hours straight and not get sick of them. Do you do any of that when you're like on a long run or something?
Oh, for sure. I have like my playlist is called 26.2. It's like it's just music that I can run to. Like same thing. Like I know I'll never get tired of it. But I have to run with music. I know some people are like, I can't do it, but I have to do it. Like I 100%. Like yeah, totally. We're on the same page there.
Nice. Do you ever do like you listen to any specific podcasts or anything? Like any podcasts right now that you like, other than obviously a Story to Tell podcast? Yeah.
I haven't listened to I haven't actually listened to a new one in a while. I think it was NPR did one called More Perfect. So I like at one point had thought that I wanted to be a lawyer and like took some pre-law stuff, did some pre-law stuff in college. And so, you know, I'm pretty fascinated by it. And this entire podcast is just kind of, I think one season looks at like landmark Supreme Court cases and just kind of like goes into detail, like analyzes them, like the decisions and stuff. And then there was and I think one of the other seasons was like going through like all of the amendments, and it was pretty cool actually. They created like an album where like artists wrote new like original songs that had to do with each amendment. I think like Dolly Parton did one of them on the album. It was a lot of like more indie artists that did it, but like I think Dolly Parton did one. I don't know. It's kind of nerd. It's kind of nerdy. It's like it's like looking at like these legal cases, and like they kind of try to. It kind of gives me like Schoolhouse Rock vibes. Like they try to like make it like a little bit more
make it accessible.
And, like, but that was probably the podcast that I most recently listened to. I've actually listened to it like again like multiple times. That's how much I love it. But I haven't besides this one, I haven't really dove into anything else in the podcast.
I mean, we're all you need, honestly. We're all you need.
That's what I'm saying.
That's awesome. So any projects you're working on or partnerships you're working on right now coming up, or any races that you're like training for, like kind of what's coming up down the pike that people can look out for?
Yeah, so I actually just got my email today that like let me know that I'm officially registered for the Boston Marathon this year. So I have been training, but like will now start taking my training much more seriously. So you can catch me out on the marathon course on April 18th. Very excited about that.
Congrats.
Thank you. And then I have a couple things coming up.
Actually, before you jump in there, what's your goal? You have like a goal time, or are you just
so that's a good question. So when I ran New York, my goal time was 4 hours, and I finished it in like 4:02. So I was like very close, devastatingly like close. Like I was like at that point I was like, are you kidding me? Like 2 minutes, like
2 minutes, You're thinking back like I should have gone a little
exactly. It eats at me every single day. But like Boston is obviously a very different course. So
a lot of elevation and stuff.
I think like I would like to say 4, but like realistically I would say like 4:30. I think this time I'm taking the approach of like I don't want to over commit, under deliver this time. I'm going to like take the opposite approach and say like, I'll shoot for like 4:30 and under, and then hopefully I come in between like 4 and 4:30 somewhere.
Awesome.
But yeah.
I don't know if you use heart rate at all, but heart rate for me is something that really sort of helps me make sure that I'm not overexerting myself.
Okay.
So yeah, if you're not using a heart rate monitor, I definitely recommend it. Like I know they have the watch, obviously, that does heart rate.
Yeah.
More like the Apple Watch has gotten with, I think, version 3, like the technology has gotten a lot better.
Okay.
But like heart rate straps are definitely the way to go.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously, you're doing endurance, so just trying to keep it below that lactate threshold. But basically, it's 220 minus age is usually sort of lines up with your lactate threshold.
Yeah.
You can sort of build your numbers from there. But yeah, it's if you're trying to like make sure that you're doing your pacing right, heart rate is usually a good sort of indicator. And just making sure, especially with like elevation gain.
Yeah.
It just makes sure that you're not going to push yourself too hard.
I'll have to look into that because like I've never really considered that as like a point of reference. I mean, I know it's important, but like I haven't really focused. I'll have to. I might like keep an eye on that when I go out for my long run this week and just like see, just like feel it out. See what it has. But that's a good tip. I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, it's been really helpful for me, and like that. Yeah, it's sort of like the rule of thumb, especially for like Ironman stuff.
Yeah,
they call it like burning matches.
Okay.
Like if once you start to like build up lactate, you burn a match.
Okay.
And those are the mistakes that those are the things that will start to sort of add up at the end of the race. So
got it.
When you sort of are looking at the clock and going, all right, I need to like pick it up here.
Yeah.
Basically exactly how hard you need to push. But
all right.
Yeah. Just figured I'd
I'll tuck that away.
A little tip,
right here. Yeah. But what were we talking about? Oh, like other upcoming like partnerships and stuff. Yeah. So I'm still kind of like in the process of finalizing some stuff, but I'd love to work with Night Shift again this year. I think we left it off, I think, in a really good place last time. And so I, would love to, looking forward to the opportunity to work with them again this year. I worked with Harry's a bunch last year, which was a lot of fun. I really like them as a brand, like what they stand for. So would like love to, do some more work with them. But still in kind of the like finalizing some of the stuff that will be coming up. So don't want to speak on anything too specifically, just in case things change, timelines change. But like definitely, I think those are I have my eye on like Harry's, Night Shift, and maybe some more, maybe some fitness running stuff. But yeah,
that's awesome. I love Harry's product, and that Brooks collaboration sounded pretty cool. In the past. When you guys were talking about like heart rate and your long run coming up, I know Paul and I have asked this to like we've had some endurance athletes on the podcast before, and one of the questions we always ask is like, do you have a post-run meal that's your go-to meal?
That's a good question. Honestly, it's super weird, but when I go out for my long runs, this is like very weirdly specific. I like crave like grapefruit. Like
wow.
I don't otherwise ever crave grapefruit. But like I always, and I meant to like Google it. Like, is there something like a vitamin or something in the grapefruit that I'm like
your body
needs
in
when I'm running that I like need, like I actually biologically am craving, and that's why I want it. But like I'm not ever like super hungry like right after I finish running. I normally need like a little bit of a break. But like I swear I'm not even making this up. Like I crave grapefruit.
We're gonna have to stand.
The only time I have it in my fridge, the only time I ever have grapefruit juice like in the house in the fridge is like when I'm training for something.
Actually, grapefruit's good, especially like if you're trying to keep your blood sugar down. Like they were actually keto, for example. Like they actually say like eating a grapefruit. Obviously, you don't want to pour sugar on top of it, but if you're trying to stay in ketosis, like you can still have like a grapefruit, which is good because obviously it's carbs, right?
Yeah.
Which is important, especially when you're running distances.
Yeah.
But that's funny. Yeah, mine's a McFlurry after every race. I like to have a McFlurry.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, we've had some interesting. I feel like everyone has like a specific, very, very hyper specific craving.
Yeah.
We've had someone say like pickles and
that's sort of like a what was it? Like a hamburger, which is like kind of, but it was a specific one. Was it Five Guys? I think you said he liked.
Yeah, I can't remember. It definitely was a burger. Yeah. And then Lucy liked peanut butters on her pickles. She was like, "Oh, I have to get a pickle with like peanut butter," and I think it was like something to do with the salt. Oh yeah, during the runs, yeah, watermelon. She's a big watermelon fan. Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to stand out at maybe at BC or
we'll
during the tough with a grapefruit
with a
for
grapefruit.
you. Yeah. They're like, what are you doing?
He's actually at the finish line or close to the finish line. It's 500 Boylston, although haven't been in since I think last summer.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll make a trip up for April, right? Yeah.
Yep.
That's where I am right now as we speak.
Brad's
basically right there. That's awesome. Well, yeah, we're definitely excited to see what else is coming down the pike. We won't spoil any of the other partnerships, but really excited for you for the race and all that you're doing with your brand and the collaborations you're doing. So congratulations on all your success so far.
Yeah. And
thank you.
So before we drop, just want to obviously let the audience know, like, where can people find you? Obviously, we know we can find you on Instagram, but like where else can we find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at AJ_Hernandez is my name on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. It's AJ Hernandez. AJ is like Hernandez, but AJ Hernandez was already taken. Like I got to give credit to my sister. I didn't come up with that.
Yeah, I still need to get on TikTok. I'm old man here.
Yeah. And then it's the same on Twitter. AJ Hernandez on Twitter. I think. I just thought of something that is coming up, not to like go back, but like I guess
absolutely
awesome.
I think I'm allowed to say this. Maybe I should. Well, I'll just say it.
Well, if you find out you can't, we'll cut it. Yeah.
I'm definitely allowed to. I am actually going to be. So I've done like gift guides a couple of times on like Instagram, like for like Christmas and stuff, and. So that's, I guess, so something you could look forward to is like I'll be doing more of those like for like other holidays, and this is the part where I'm like, I think I can say this, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I can. I'm actually going to go on the Hub today on NBC 10 and do like a live gift guide. Like, so awesome. Very excited about that. But yeah, I'm going to like have some cool gifts, like try to keep it like different, like unique. Things that you might not think of yourself. But yeah.
Wow.
Looking forward to that.
That's great.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. Valentine's Day gift guide.
Do you know your outfit? I mean, now we might be spoiling too much, but have you thought about your outfit going on? I mean, you're going to be on the silver screen.
I have. So, I think I'm going to like lean into the theme of like Valentine's Day and like probably wear something like red, or I have like this pretty cool like burgundy corduroy suit that I might
yeah, you got to do that.
Yeah. Still trying to finalize that, but I think that's probably going to be the fit. But yeah, that's coming up.
Sweet.
I think like right after this. What is this? February 10th is when it is. So like I think this will have already come out, right?
Yep.
But yeah,
corduroy never goes out of style.
That's right.
It's a great look. Awesome. Well, we will. What'd you say?
I said can't beat a good suit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing like it.
I know. Next time when we do round 2, we got to all do suits. I dropped the ball. I know,
Brad. I'm seriously disappointed in you, but
yeah. You know what? I had like a shirt jacket or whatever you call it. That's that would have dressed it up a little bit more. It at least has a collar. Really dropped the ball, guys. I'm sorry.
Brad and I was in high school and we had to wear uniforms. I'm very disappointed in Brad, but we'll have time. But anyways, it was super nice.
Yeah, you guys too. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Have a good weekend, and we'll be in touch soon.
All right. Talk to you soon. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Have a good one.